The beginning of the study of criminal law starts and ends with a basic formula. It is a formula that will serve you well throughout your careers. If you're a criminal attorney, certainly you will have to use it on a daily basis. If, however, you are just a community leader, an opinion leader in your community, people will ask you about crimes that occur, crimes they read about in the newspaper, they hear about on the news, or they're aware of in your neighborhood, in your community, and you'll be able to use this basic formula when addressing those questions as well. So that formula is this: actus reus plus mens rea equals a crime. There are only three elements here: actus reus, mens rea, and a crime. So this formula seems on its face to be simple enough. But as with many things in life, uh, it's deceiving. It's really not all that simple. Now, let me show you this. This is my old trumpet. This is what I picked out when I was 9 years old, and they had an event at the school auditorium, and they had all these instruments on tables throughout the gym, and the deal was for us to walk through there as kids and pick the instrument that appealed to us. Now, I always wanted to play the saxophone, but the saxophone had too many buttons. I mean, there were a lot of buttons on the saxophone, right? And I was drawn to the trumpet because look at this. I mean, there are only three buttons, right? How complicated can this be? But as with most things in life, those things that appear to be rather simple really are not. So I found out in time that there are a finite number of possibilities for each of these three buttons, and all of it has to do with what you put in here, what you put in this end. That's what determines what comes out this end. These must still be used deftly and wisely and with a plan, but each one of them must be thought about carefully before you push these buttons in order to come out with the right result. So think about it as actus reus plus mens rea equals a crime. Seems simple, three elements, but that's not true. It's actually pretty complex. We're going to deal with those complexities throughout this coming semester as we look at various aspects of criminal law. Now, with actus reus, we're usually looking for some sort of physical act, a voluntariness. It has a lot to do with this physical act. Was it a voluntary physical act? And we'll find out that that's not so simple to determine. Plus, mens rea, and this is where it gets even thornier because with mens rea, we're talking about what's going on inside here in various individuals based upon their own life experiences, their own physical and mental state, the facts of the situation, exigent circumstances. So that's the mens rea element. That's intent, sometimes called evil intent or criminal intent. But we have actus reus, a voluntary act, plus mens rea. And if those two come together in the right fashion, that will equal a crime. We can treat that little equal sign as sort of the causation bridge, equal, that will cause a crime. Again, voluntariness seems simple, plus mens rea, which is dealing with the mysteries of the mind. Those two things together, if they fall in place, they equal a crime. Now, you're going to hear a lot about rules in criminal law that are always the case, except for when they are not. So you must always have actus reus plus mens rea in order to have a crime, except for those few situations in which it is not required. There are some situations in which actus reus is sufficient. We call these strict liability crimes. We don't care what you were thinking. We don't care if you were aware of what you were doing or not necessarily. We look at the act itself. Now, these strict liability crimes are either the simplest, the lowest grade criminal acts in our system, or they are the most serious. Things like statutory sex crimes, things like taking firearms or explosives onto an airplane, onto airport property. These things, from the lowest to the highest, can be strict liability crimes, and they'll be the exception, and we'll talk about those because they are always laid out in statute. So there can be no crime, generally speaking, without actus reus and mens rea. We know that there are strict liability crimes, which are the exception. Actus reus alone can constitute the behavior necessary for that to be a crime. But when we get to mens rea alone is never a crime because we do not punish thoughts. Remember, that's what's going on inside the actor's head. Okay, we do not punish thoughts alone. There has to be some manifestation, some physical manifestation, some step towards that crime in order for there to be any consideration that a crime has occurred. So we'll talk more about that as time goes on. But remember, this is the basic formula. Your first lesson, your last lesson in criminal law will be this basic formula. Thank you.